you fucker. Hold up. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this carburetor put back together. All 300 pieces of it. With every part of the main body of this taken apart, I did take the opportunity to scrub this thing. I just soaked it in some hot water with some Dawn to get all the grease and shit off. And then I scrubbed everything out, and then I put grease on areas that could maybe rust, like on the couple springs in here. But I got this thing looking pretty good. It's not new or anything, but so yeah, we'll go ahead and get this thing put back together, and I'll try to walk you through it as much as I can. But this is my first time doing it with this carb, so it might take me a minute. Alright, so putting this back together, I'm going to start with the throttle assembly. Be careful, this wheel likes to fall off. And then I did put a new needle in here. Super easy, 4mm bolt. Just pop the needle out, put the new one in, and then this plate likes to fall off as well. So make sure you put it on the correct way. It does not match against the slide like that, like you think it would. It actually goes reverse. So there's that. The actual throttle wheel. This arm here. The screw that holds that arm in place. These two washers. Now one is nylon and one is steel. Nylon and steel. So I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so this is going to go in. Now there's a groove down in here that the needle is actually going to go in. Just like that. And there goes that wheel. And there we go. And this will come through the bottom here. You can see it right there. Okay, so the pulley and the throttle wheel. There's a spring on here, and the spring's gonna go on here, and this little arm is gonna hook on to that little housing right there. And before I put this in, there are two bearings in here, one on either side. I'm gonna put some grease in here and take my pick and sort of lube these up nicely. And now these two washers, take the nylon one first and put it on, and then the steel one goes on, so you don't have metal on here. And just push this the rest of the way. Okay, now you can see in here, possibly, right in here behind the wheel, there's a little valley, and that is where the other part of that spring is going to go in. Hold up. Okay, I was wrong. I got a little ahead of myself. I knew something didn't seem right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back out. Let's do some more grease. Okay, so nylon, and then steel. So now you're going to move the slide up, and this is going to slide in here in this groove. Push the slide down, and your O-ring or your washer should still be in place in here. Okay, now here's where you're going to put in throttle wheel, just like I did before. Okay, so you need to make sure the bar goes through both washers, and then in this gap in this swing arm. And now the accelerator pump arm is going to get in the way here, so just kind of move that and then put your spring in place. You should be able to just kind of ease that in. There we go. Okay, my battery just died. So basically what I did was I pushed this all the way in with the flat side of this arm facing up, lined up the swing arm with the slide and that hole, and put the screw in, and now everything works. Okay, moving on. Put a little bit of grease in here on this sensor, and then that's gonna go right in. The cover, one that says flat CR, with a new gasket, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of gasket maker on here just to keep it in place. And now this kit did come with two new screws for this. Little crusty Allen bolts. I got these two new Phillips with lock washers. Perfect. Okay, now we're gonna move down here Alright, so the first thing we're going to put in is the needle float valve filter thing. I have brass punches and a brass hammer. Let's make this job a little bit easier. Okay, that was kind of a bitch, but I got it. So that's going to go in with the new screw. Alright, that's flush, that's locked. Okay, now we're going to get the floats and the needle valve in, or the needle float valve in. Now the needle just goes on this little tab right here in the middle between the two. It's going to go into that filter we just installed, like so. And then take that bar that we took out and put it in, through there, through there, through there. And there we go. Now we're going to get the jets installed. Got to put this little green housing back on. And then this goes back in with the needle from the slide pushing in. Take our little 8mm. Now don't over tighten this. Okay, so that's in. Okay, now we're going to put the main jet in over top of that with the needle inside it. This is a 170 main jet stock number. So that's going to go on, just tighten it down a little bit with the wrench here. There we go. Alright, now the pilot jet's going in. This is a number 42. Again, stock numbers. That goes into the front hole in the carburetor. Don't over tighten. Now this one I just found out is called the starter jet. And this one goes on to the back hole closest to the float valve. Alright, so all three brand new jets are in. So now we're going to set this aside for a minute, and then we're going to get the bottom on here, and then we're going to get the accelerator pump reassembled. Alright, all we're going to need for this is the new diaphragm, new spring, 2 new O-rings, and 3 new bolts. So to help everything stay in place, I'm going to put a dab of grease on the 2 spots where the O-rings go. Alright, so the small O-ring goes in the cover right there. Big O-ring goes right there. The diaphragm, this little nipple, goes down. Spring goes there. This only fits on one way. Center it, center it. Make sure you are not binding that spring at all. Alright, so accelerator pump is all rebuilt. Super duper easy. And one other thing I did, this kit came with a new O-ring for this cap. I don't know what this cap is for, but it doesn't seem to do anything except maybe drain this thing. Alright. Okay, so now we have the new gasket for the float bowl, which is going to go on just like this, with the 2 rings going on their respective housings. And now if you do not have one of these easy mixture screws, this is where you would put it into that hole with a flathead screwdriver. This kit came with an easy mix screw. With this screw, you want to make sure you have, after the threads, the spring, the little washer, and then a little O-ring. And this is how small these are. There you go. So they're that small. And I just dropped it. So, and then the float bowl is going to go on. Make sure this piston goes into the accelerator pump housing, and then just kind of slide everything in together. You should not have to force this at all. Okay, now the mixture screw is going to go in. Now this does go in at an angle, and it helps to lower the carb onto the mixture screw so you don't lose your little O-ring. So this is in, bottomed out. Now what you want to do is back this out 2 full rotations. That's going to be the best starting point until you get this thing up and running, and you can tune it from there. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's on the number 4. So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, 4. That's 1 turn. 3, 2, 1, 2 full turns. Alright, so that's that. Okay, the last 2 big things on here are going to be the throttle wheel stop. I can't remember what the exact name is, but that's just going to thread right into that hole. And don't forget, this does have the spring and the washer on it. And then on the bottom side is where this little bracket goes into that hole with this screw. And of course you can adjust this later when you get everything back on. And now the choke goes on. The bottom one is the choke one. This is the way the carb sits. The bottom is the choke, that's the hot start. So this is gonna go in here. So that is the carb completely reassembled minus the hot start and the throttle and idle cables and this shroud, which I'm gonna put all that on when I put it back in the bike. Also the vacuum lines, which I just went and picked up. These red vacuum lines look a lot better. Let me try to figure out where the hell these all go. Okay, so new vacuum lines. I put some heat shrink on these ones because the other ones had this piece of plastic on them. Now I didn't have enough red tubing to do everything, but I did most of them. And now I'm gonna take these little zip ties. All right, so that's everything. Perfect.